I'm going to show 3 cool experiments in each round of this show, but the catch is one of them has been faked, and it's your job to spot which one that is. If you're new here, the show is called 2 Truths and Trash, and this video is a marathon of all 8 episodes from season 1 for a total of 26 rounds. After I reveal the answer for each round, I also included data about what the audience guessed. Without further ado, here's the full first season, and I hope you enjoy. 2 of the following videos are true while the other one is trash. Can you spot the fake? Let's begin. First up, grab a glass bottle with flat sides. This isn't sponsored, but the fact that I'm using an honesty bottle should tell you that this one is definitely real. Anyway, like you just saw, if you push the bottle up at the corner of the wall, it will stay. It's not even touching the black part of the door. When you're done letting the wall hold it for you, just grab it and you're good to go. Next up, here's how to make a vortex in water using a battery. First, add salt to the water. The salt makes the water conduct electricity better, which means when you add the 9-volt battery, current flows in the clockwise direction. Since the water molecules are polar, they're attracted to this flow of electrons. It takes a bit of time, so I sped it up here, but it's pretty cool how strong it can get. Take a slice of lemon peel, then light a candle, and squeeze the peel onto the flame. This works because the peel contains an oil that is very flammable. You've seen all 3 videos now. Pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. Alright, time for the reveal. If you thought this bottle video was real, well, you'd be correct. Turns out you can't make a vortex with a 9-volt battery. I simply put the video in reverse. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here was the result from the polls where 66% of people got it right. Hopefully you got that one right, but if not, it's time for round 2. A slight nudge can easily make a regular ruler fall over the edge of a counter. However, adding just a few sheets of paper allows you to whack the ruler in half. If you remove the protective coating of a €2 coin by scratching the surface and then submerge it in water, some of the nickel ions from the coin will react with the water to produce a small amount of mildly corrosive nickel oxide. This solution is too weak to do any damage to most materials like glass, metal, or ceramics, but as you can see here, it is strong enough to go through a thin styrofoam plate. If you grab a lemon peel and squeeze it onto a balloon, the balloon will pop. This works because a chemical in the peel called limonene dissolves a hole in the balloon, and it also works with oranges. You've seen all 3 videos now. Pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. Believe it or not, having a few sheets of paper does actually allow you to snap a ruler in half, and lemons and oranges do pop balloons. That means this video was fake. It was actually acetone in the glass, not water, and acetone alone will break down the structure of styrofoam. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data from the poll where 61% of participants got it right. Next up, it's time for round 3. If you grab a straw on a potato, you'll notice it's pretty difficult to stab the straw through the potato. The straw is too weak to do anything more than scuff the surface. However, if you place your thumb on top of the straw, you can push it through much further. Your thumb traps the air inside the straw, so when you go to puncture the potato, the air compresses. Just like how the pressurized contents of a soda can makes the thin aluminum walls much stronger, the higher pressure inside the straw also makes it stronger. Receipts are pressure sensitive, so if you push down on them, you can draw black lines. This also means that if you place a receipt under a flat board and give it a bunch of whacks like this, the area that experienced the pressure will turn black. If you light a candle and point a flashlight on it, you'll notice that the flame has no shadow. You've seen all 3 videos now. Pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. If you thought the receipt video was fake, you'd be correct. Receipts are color changing with temperature, not pressure. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data from the poll where 75% got it right. Next up, round 4. Squirt a decent amount of ketchup into a container, then put a few scoops of baking soda in. After stirring it around for a while, you'll notice it's kind of orangey and a little bit bubbly. Then light a candle, and all you have to do is pretend to pour and the candle will go out. This works because the vinegar in the ketchup reacts with the baking soda, and one of the products is carbon dioxide, which happens to sink in air. So when you're pretending to pour, the carbon dioxide is coming out and extinguishing the flame. Here's how to blow Jolly Rancher bubbles. Grab the worst flavor of Jolly Ranchers and put them in the microwave. Once heated, they should be a hot, sticky liquid. After letting it cool down a bit, since I put them in the microwave for way too long, I grabbed a metal straw and coated the tip with some Jolly Rancher. Then you can blow into the straw and bubbles should shoot out. That was a pretty bad angle, so here's another. Not gonna lie, it's not that easy and actually took me a few tries. If you do try this at home, please be extremely careful with the really hot Jolly Rancher. Here's how to make your own Pop Rocks. First, start off with some food dye. I wanted to make some purple Pop Rocks, so I used a combination of red and blue. Next, add sugar and mix it around, allowing it to clump. Pop Rocks are just crystallized sugar with trapped pockets of carbon dioxide. That's why the next ingredient is carbonated water. The sugar is really good at absorbing some of the carbon dioxide of the beverage, and the last step is to boil off the remaining water. So I put it in the microwave for 3 minutes. You can tell it worked because adding a bit of water gets that signature crackling sound. You've seen all 3 videos now. Pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. Alright, mixing baking soda with ketchup actually does allow you to extinguish candles. And although the signature crackling from Pop Rocks does come from the release of trapped carbon dioxide in the candy, this was absolutely not a real way to make Pop Rocks. This is what I did instead. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data where 56% of people got it right. Now it's time for round 5. First up, take a battery and attach strong magnets to the bottom. Then bend some copper wire into a shape like this and gently place it on top. You'll start to notice it spin around. This works because current flows from the positive to negative terminal of the battery. As current flows through the copper wire, a magnetic field is created around the wire. This magnetic field is then opposed by the magnetic field of the neodymium magnets at the bottom, which creates the motion. Did you know you can actually stack 3 dice on top of each other like this? The second one's pretty easy to get, but the third one takes a bit more practice. Once you get it down though, it's pretty easy to replicate, no glue necessary. Plastic pen caps are able to hold charge very well. Simply rub the cap to the pen body for a little while, and when you release the cap, it'll be attracted back to the pen. You've now seen all 3 videos. Pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. Alright, time for the reveal. Although this one seemed fake, it's actually real, and so is stacking the dice. That means this one's fake. I actually pinched my fingers, which sends the cap flying, and I did it a few times until it landed properly. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data from the poll where 92% of people got it right. Next up, it's time for round 6. Metal paper clips are more dense than water, so they'll sink. But if you're very careful, you can place them on the surface and let surface tension hold them up. If you take a Sharpie and rub it back and forth on top of the can like this, applying a decent amount of pressure, the tear strip of the can will be weakened enough that the internal pressure will break the seal. Have you ever wondered why I means on and O means off on some electrical switches? Well, turns out there's a reason, and it's all because of Italian physicist Alessandro Volta, who standardized the electric switch. He designated the letter I for the Italian word ingegno, meaning active, and the letter O for the Italian word ozioso, meaning inactive. You've now seen all 3 videos. Pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. Although Alessandro Volta is a real and important person in the history of electricity, the switch is actually labeled 1 and 0 based on the binary system, in an attempt to make it universal. I used inspect element to change what the caption said on this Wikipedia page. This is actually a picture of Volta showing his invention of a battery to Napoleon. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data from the poll where only 42% of people got it right. Next up, round number 7. You can actually use a lemon to charge your phone like this. A single lemon has enough electrolytes to charge most phones about 5%. Heat causes objects to expand in a process called thermal expansion. Due to this phenomenon, the Eiffel Tower increases in height by around 6 inches or 15 centimeters in the summer compared to winter. Grab some bananas as weight and hang them on some copper wire. Then grab an ice cube and let the copper wire rest on the ice. The weight of the bananas allows you to slice the ice cube in half. It takes a bit of time, so I sped it up here. But once the copper wire makes it to the bottom, it cleanly snaps through. You've now seen all 3 videos. Pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. If you thought this video was fake, well then you'd be correct. Although lemon juice can be the electrolyte in a simple battery, which I'll do in an upcoming video, this is not how it works. I instead screen recorded my phone being charged and played that video before starting. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data from the poll where 80% of people got it right. To be honest, I was a bit surprised that 20% of people thought it wasn't out of the question that you could plug into a lemon to charge your phone. Next up, round 8. You can open a wine bottle with a hair straightener. As the air inside the bottle heats up, the pressure rises. After about 10 minutes, once the pressure was high enough inside the bottle to overcome the stopper, it shot off like a rocket. If you make a mistake highlighting the wrong part of your paper, you can use heat to erase the highlights. This works because all highlighters contain fluorescein, which is very volatile, so it removes the highlight as long as it's still wet. If you dangle a spoon on your fingertips and slowly approach water, instead of the water pushing away the spoon, it actually sucks it in. You've seen all 3 videos now. Pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. If you thought this highlighter video was fake, you'd be correct. When I went to highlight the word, I had help highlighting it with a special highlighter. This special highlighter is thermochromic, meaning it changes color to become clear with heat. But no, this trick does not work for all highlighters. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data from the poll where 55% of participants got it right. Now it's time for round number 9. Giraffes and humans have the same number of neck bones. A nail placed in the trunk of a tree will rise in height as the tree grows. Pencil graphite and diamonds are both made of carbon. You've seen all 3 videos now, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. And while you think, I wanted to let you know this bonus round was taken from the example card on the back of my first ever merch item, a 2 Truths and Trash trivia deck with 50 new rounds. It's available now, and if you're interested in getting one for yourself or a friend, you can go to my website. Anyway, it turns out a nail placed in the trunk of a tree won't rise in height as the tree grows. Next up, round number 10. Grab a pair of scissors and some duct tape. Place the duct tape on the balloon. And now you're able to skewer through the balloon. Grab a candle and place it onto a wet paper towel that's on a pan. Light the candle and place a glass over it. Press down to make sure the pan is flat. Then once the candle goes out, you can pick up the entire weight of the pan. If it's hot but you don't have an air conditioner, you can use your fridge to cool your room by a few degrees, but it's not recommended because you could overwork the compressor and break the fridge. You've seen all 3 videos now, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. If you thought picking up this pan was fake, you'd be wrong. When the candle goes out, a partial vacuum is created which has enough suction to lift up quite heavy objects. An open fridge does not cool your room. Any device that creates cooling must also reject heat to satisfy the conservation of energy principle. With an air conditioner, that heat is rejected to the outside air, meaning your room only experiences the cooling. However, a fridge is not connected to the outside, meaning it rejects that heat to the room, canceling out any effect of cooling. Combined with system losses, a fridge will actually heat your room. Once again, here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data where 64% got it right. Next up, round 11. Place a spoon and a fork together just like this, and use a match to balance it on the tip of a glass. As you can see, there's nothing underneath the spoon or the fork holding it up. If you stab a Ziploc with a pencil, the hole will remain plugged until the pencil is removed. However, to prevent most of the water leaking upon removal, add some of your friend's oil to the pencil and fully coat the hole. Then when you take the pencil out, the oil provides enough of a seal to prevent most of the leakage, although if you put pressure on the bag, water will still shoot out. Grab some white flowers, place them into a vase, don't forget the flower food, then add a few drops of whatever kind of food dye you want. Then if you wait a few days, you'll notice that some of the petals have started to turn that color. You've seen all 3 videos now, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. You actually can balance a fork and spoon like this because the center of gravity is right on the point of contact with the glass. This Ziploc bag video was fake. The clip of me pulling out the pencil was actually put in reverse. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data where 67% of people got it right. Now it's time for round 12. If you want to lose money even faster with scratch-off cards, rather than scratching it, you can use hand sanitizer. Then you can just wipe away the surface to reveal how close you were to winning. If I draw an arrow on a piece of paper and then place it behind a glass bottle of water, you'll notice that the arrow flips in direction when you look through the glass. Submerge an egg in a large container of salt and let it soak in the refrigerator for at least 24 hours. After that time has passed, you can take out the egg and notice how the outer shell was dissolved by the salt, leaving only a thin elastic coat on the egg. This makes the egg somewhat bouncy. You've seen all 3 videos, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. Did you notice the jump cut in this clip? No? Well, that's because there wasn't one, and it's real. Turns out salt does not react to an egg like this. To make the squishy egg, I soaked a portion of the egg in vinegar for a few days. Then I placed that egg in the salt. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data where 77% of people got it right. Next up, round 13. If you dip an Oreo in milk for about 10 seconds, this is sped up, it will get very soggy and mushy. However, if you dip the Oreo in chocolate milk for a similar amount of time, it won't get soggy and you can still hear a crunch when I break it apart. It's no secret that different elements emit different wavelengths of light when burned, but did you know that some contact solutions contain sodium borate, which burns bright green? Squirt a decent amount of solution onto a hot fire and then be patient as you wait for an epic burst of green flames. Carefully break a few toothpicks in half, then pour some water on the plate. If that moves your toothpicks, quickly put them back into the shape of a star. Then sit back and watch the toothpicks move into a bigger star. There's no stop motion here, they do it all by themselves. You've seen all 3 videos, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. Turns out it's true that Oreos don't get soggy in chocolate milk. The secret has to do with emulsifiers that keep the chocolate evenly mixed in the milk. These emulsifiers prevent the Oreos from getting soggy.
In addition, the toothpick one is real too. Water causes the toothpicks to expand, which explains why they contract like muscles here into a larger star. That means the contact solution video is fake. While I was reading the label of the contact solution, I had help tossing a colorful campfire packet into the fire, which contains the elements needed to create these beautiful looking flames.
Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data where only 21% of people got it right, although this one was a bit unfair because I've come to learn that it doesn't work for all chocolate milks. Now it's time for round 14. These sonic toothbrushes vibrated around 517 Hz, which corresponds to a wavelength of about 1 inch. So as the vibrations deflect the metal tray, the sprinkles will accumulate in the troughs and avoid the crests.
Pour a thin layer of milk onto a plate and add a few drops of food dye. Then, if you drop soap in the middle, the food dye shoots away from the center, and I'm definitely not blowing on it. Dandelions are hydrophobic, which means they repel the water, and it bunches up. However, if instead of water I use acetone, I can easily dip the dandelion in and it stays straight. You've seen all 3 videos, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. As much as we all wanted this sprinkle video to be true, it's unfortunately fake. The whole video was put in reverse.
Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data where 84% of participants got it right. Next up, round 15.
These are special waterproof matches. Rather than conventional combustion, they use a similar reaction to that of grease fires, which you should never pour water on. As you can see here, pouring water onto this match does nothing to stop the fire from burning. The match is completely submerged beneath the water, but doesn't go out until it runs out of fuel. If you take a slinky and drop it while it's in tension, you'll notice that the bottom of the slinky doesn't start falling until the rest of the slinky catches up. If you blow out a candle, you can relight it from above by lighting a stream of unburned wax vapor that propagates the flame back to the wick. You've seen all 3 videos now, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. This cool slinky phenomenon is 100% real, and you actually can relight a candle using its unburned wax vapor. Here's an additional slow-mo just cause it's cool. None of what I said about this match was true. I just filmed filling the container up and lighting the match in 2 separate shots and overlaid them, changing the opacity of one of the layers.
Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data where 77% of people got it right. Next up, round 16. If you statically charge a comb by rubbing it on your hair, you can attract the water coming out of a faucet and cause it to curve towards the comb. Using Bernoulli's principle, a ping pong ball in a hairdryer stream will experience equal pressure on all sides, allowing the ping pong ball to remain roughly stagnant in the hairdryer stream. This works no matter what angle the hairdryer blows on the ping pong ball. After spinning a raw egg, abruptly stop it, but then release your finger. The egg will continue to spin. Here's a slow motion for additional proof. You've seen all 3 videos now, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. A statically charged comb does attract water from the faucet. When you stop the outer shell of the egg, the yolk is still moving inside. So when you release it, the egg does start moving again. That means this one's fake. The ping pong ball does actually float above the hairdryer, but only when it's pushing from below, or slightly from the side. This only works because it's opposing gravity. When you put the hairdryer above, it does not work at all. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data where 76% of people got it right. Now it's time for round 17. If you place a ping pong ball on a full glass bottle of water, the ping pong ball will act like a cap for the bottle and prevent most of the water from spilling out, even when the bottle is turned upside down. Only a few drops leak, and the overall experiment is even stable for abrupt movements. A regular piece of string has a difficult time picking up a block of ice from above, but if you pour a bit of salt at the contact point of the string and the ice and wait about 30 seconds to a minute, you can now pick up the ice cubes. If you place a battery on a closed loop of conductors around a magnetic coin, the current induces a magnetic field that causes the coin to at first vibrate and then spin. You've seen all 3 videos now, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. The salt helps melt the ice cube and then it refreezes over the string, so this one is 100% real. Hopefully you all realize that this one was fake. The utensils don't even complete the circuit, and the whole thing was actually put in reverse. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data where 80% of people got it right. Next up, round 18. If you allow a strip of aluminum foil to rotate freely on a stick and then light a candle beneath it, the heat rises and propels the foil.
Crush some eggshells into a fine powder. I decided to use a blender because it worked better. Then place a bit of flour into a bowl. Add a few scoops of crushed eggshell and a small amount of water, mush it up into a paste and shape it. Then roll it up and place it on the counter to dry for a few days. After waiting, you can take it out of the paper towel and it works like chalk. Rocket propellers use Newton's third law to move forward. In this example, air is forced out the back, meaning the cart experiences an equal and opposite force that propels it forward. You've seen all 3 videos now, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. The heat from the candle does actually spin the aluminum foil, and yes, this is a real recipe for creating chalk. That means this one's fake. The hairdryer is not nearly strong enough to propel the car forward, and the whole thing was put in reverse.
Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round. And here's the data showing only 48% got it right, although many people complained, and rightfully so, that in theory this would work, and it was just about knowing whether this specific hairdryer would work for that specific car. So that was a little cheap. Next up, it's time for round 19. If you place matches and string in a configuration like this, you can release your finger and it will still hold up a pretty heavy bottle, no glue necessary. If you cut the tips of matches and put them in a 2-liter bottle full of water, you can squeeze the bottle and then the match tips will rise. If you light a match, drop it in a glass bottle and then balance an egg on top of the bottle. After waiting a few moments, you can successfully pick up the bottle with the egg. You've seen all 3 videos now, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. When the match goes out and the air inside the container cools, a partial vacuum is created that tries to suck the egg in. This egg was too large to get sucked in, but the suction was strong enough to lift the entire bottle. If you thought this balancing video was fake, well then you'd be wrong. I actually made a follow-up short that goes into this in more detail, so if you're interested, I'll put a link in the description.
That means this video is fake. The original video was in reverse. Match tips normally float in water, so squeezing the bottle compresses them, making their density slightly higher, just enough that they will now begin to sink.
Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data which shows that 57% of people got it right. Next, it's time for round 20.
If you place hand sanitizer on a plate and add Himalayan salt, the reaction is dangerous if it comes into contact with a paper towel, and the paper towel will catch on fire. An empty aluminum can has a hard time balancing on the surface of water without falling over. But if you let the air pocket underneath the can escape, then an empty can is quite stable in the upright position. If you poke holes in a raw egg, then blow out its insides, you are left with the shell of an egg. Place that shell in vinegar and let it sit for a few days. After waiting, you'll see that all that remains is a slimy sack, which can be blown into a sort of ball and bounced around in an activity that is more fun than it would seem. You've seen all 3 videos now, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. If you thought the hand sanitizer video was fake, you'd be correct. The salt was purely a distraction. It's the fact that hand sanitizer is flammable, but difficult to see in broad daylight that makes this trick work. In the dark you can see the blue hand sanitizer flame pretty easily, but in the original video you would have had to see the more subtle heat distortion near the flame. Please don't try this at home.
Once again, here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data where 83% of people got it right. Now it's time for round 21.
This is a can of 95% oxygen, and since oxygen is less dense than air, if you fill up a balloon with oxygen, it will rise just like a helium balloon would. This is a really vibrant plasma ball that is cool to look at when you touch it, but what's even cooler is that if you bring a fluorescent light bulb near it, the light bulb will light up. If you place a Cheerio somewhere it should never belong, like in a bowl of water, you can attract it with a strong neodymium magnet. You've seen all 3 videos now, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. This Cheerio can actually be pulled by the magnet, and it looks very cool in a hyperlapse shot. A fluorescent light bulb also does light up when it comes close to a plasma ball, and that means this video is fake. Oxygen is actually more dense than air, so even if I could have figured out how to fill a balloon from this container, it would actually just sink.
Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data that showed only 55% of people got this one right. Next up, it's round 22. The Wii remote works using a sensor bar that emits infrared light to detect where the remote is aimed at. That means you can replace the sensor bar with candles that are spaced roughly the same distance as the infrared lights on the sensor bar, and the remote will still work. This looks like a boring vase filled with oil, but there's actually a hidden test tube inside. The glass and the oil have a similar index of refraction, so it's difficult to see, but here's what it would look like if there was a pocket of air instead inside the test tube. If you use a strong neodymium magnet on a faucet like this one, you can rotate the steel valve inside and cause the motion of the water flowing out of the faucet to change. You've seen all three videos now, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. If you thought the Wii video was fake, you'd be wrong. This does actually work. The faucet video was fake. I have no idea why my faucet was behaving like this, but the magnet does not make it work. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data showing only 35% of people got this one right. Next up, it's round 23. If you draw on a sink with a dry erase marker and let the ink dry, the letters will peel off the surface and float once the water reaches them. If you add a small amount of flour, some salt, and then a good amount of sugar and mix it up, the combination absorbs water very well, just like how a diaper does. You can fit this entire blob of cotton candy into a tiny cup of water. As the cotton candy dissolves in the water, all the air inside the cotton candy is released. You've seen all three videos now, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. Did you believe this one? Well, good job, because it's true. It's actually this video that was fake. Combining salt, flour, and sugar does not create a super absorbent mix, but I use those ingredients because it does look like the actual substance I used, which is a super absorbent diaper polymer. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data showing 72% of people got it correct. Now it's time for round 24. These two alkaline AA batteries look identical, but one of them is dead and the other is full. I know this because when you drop the dead battery, it is much bouncier than if I drop the full battery. Here I have a laser pointer aimed straight at the hole of a 2-liter soda bottle full of water. When I unscrew the cap, water will start to flow out. Notice how the laser beam curves with the stream of the water, and the light ends up shining wherever the stream lands on the pan. If you take a regular piece of sweet corn and heat it in the microwave, the water in the kernels will evaporate, drying out the corn. You should definitely use a better bag than I did, but eventually the kernels will start to pop straight off the cob. You've seen all three videos now, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. Here's a side-by-side comparison dropping a dead battery versus a full battery. As you can see, the full battery is actually less bouncy than the dead battery. It was the corn video that was fake. You can't just put regular store-bought corn in the microwave to make popcorn, but you can get popcorn on the cob like this. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data showing 63% of people got it right. Next up, round 25. This is a long skinny tube of copper. Copper is not ferromagnetic, so this magnet won't stick to it. However, dropping the magnet through the tube results in it falling much slower. This device is cleverly designed to allow the ball to continuously cycle. As the ball falls and is redirected, it has just enough energy to return to its original height, meaning it successfully clears the lip and can fall all over again. This mini tabletop and table bottom are only connected by a few pieces of string, but it can still support the weight of this large roll of duct tape.
You've seen all three videos, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake.
Did you think the copper tube video was fake? Well, you'd be wrong. Here's what it looks like from the top-down view. The movement of the neodymium magnet falling through the tube produces eddy currents in the copper tube, which in turn produces an opposing magnetic field that acts to slow the magnet's movement. This video was fake. This device does not work on its own. It's actually battery powered, but the button is discrete. When the power is turned off, the magnetic ball does not receive the boost of energy needed to get back to the start. Here's a quick recap to help you follow before moving on to the next round, and here's the data showing only 32% of people got it right. I was a bit surprised that many people thought perpetual motion was real, but that copper demo is pretty surprising. Now it's time for the final round, round 26. This is an induction heater. Even though the coil is not abnormally hot and I can actually touch it, it uses alternating magnetic fields to heat any magnetic and conductive object like this fork to red hot temperatures in under 30 seconds. If I tie 13 nuts to one side of this string and 1 nut to the other, that 13:1 ratio allows me to drop the heavier side, and the lighter side will always get caught and wrap around my finger, preventing it from hitting the ground. If I take a green laser pointer and shine it onto a canvas that has been coated in glow-in-the-dark paint, the laser pointer will charge the canvas and you can see the drawing when the light is turned off.
You've seen all 3 videos, pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake.
The induction heater does heat objects that quickly, and it's such an awesome device that I made a separate video that walks you through how to assemble it, which I'll link in the comments. It turns out this video was fake. While it is possible to charge a glow-in-the-dark canvas with the laser pointer, if you want to do so with a small handheld laser pointer, you need one that emits blue light, not green. And there you have it, the final round. I'll be posting more marathons of Season 2 and 3 in the coming weeks, and the premiere of Season 4 will be coming out shortly after that. Thanks for your patience, and if you want to support the making of more episodes, consider purchasing my 2 Truths and Trash trivia deck. As mentioned, it's got 50 new rounds of this show in the form of trivia, and I had a ton of fun putting it together, and I've received a lot of good feedback that it makes for a great gift. To purchase, go to twotruthsandtrash.com or use the link in the description. Thanks for watching to the end, and I'll see you next time.